Okay, let's just dive right into one of the biggest, most mind-bending questions in all of science and philosophy. What is consciousness? For centuries, I mean literally centuries, trying to answer this has led to a major philosophical clash, especially when you start talking about strange or extraordinary experiences. So the whole conversation just gets stuck, right? It forces you into this corner where you have to make a false choice. Either you dismiss your own experience as meaningless, just a glitch in the machine, or you have to inflate it into something magical and supernatural. There has to be a better way to talk about this. So where does this whole mess come from? Well, it turns out this conflict is baked right into the very principles of science, clashing with our deepest gut feelings about who we are. You see, science has been so incredibly successful because of this one core idea. The physical world runs on physical rules. Everything that happens has a physical cause. But you see the problem, right? It feels like it writes our rich inner lives completely out of the script. If my feeling of wanting a coffee doesn't physically cause my arm to reach for the mug, then what in the world is it even for? But what if there's a third way? A new academic paper is proposing something really interesting. It's not another grand theory of consciousness, but something maybe more useful, a coordination framework. Think of it as a new set of rules for the road to help everyone have a more productive conversation and, you know, break this stalemate. And here is the absolute core of it. The framework argues that our experiences, our feelings, they are totally 100% real. They genuinely exist. But, and this is the big but, they are non-causal. They aren't some ghost in the machine pushing levers and pulling switches in the physical world. Okay, hold on. How can something be real if it doesn't do anything? That sounds a little weird, right? Well, the answer comes from rethinking what the mind even is. We have to escape this idea that consciousness is a separate thing that somehow has to interact with the brain. And this is the key. It's a simple but really powerful idea that helps us avoid all those confusing dead-end questions. Your experience isn't in your brain like a ghost. It's an aspect of how your brain is organized and functioning. So, how does this actually help us think more clearly in practice? This is where the framework gives us a really practical tool. It's an architecture that slices reality into 4 distinct levels of description. Let's break it down. At the very bottom, L0, you've got the physical stuff, the neurons, the atoms. Then L1 is how all that stuff is organized, the rules of the system. That organization gives rise to L2, which is the experience itself, what it actually feels like to be you. And finally, L3 is how you talk about it, your actions, your words, anything you do to describe that experience. The book analogy just makes this click, doesn't it? The physical stuff, L0, is the ink and paper. The rules, L1, are the grammar and sentence structure. And the story, the feeling of the adventure or the sadness, that's L2. It is absolutely real, but you can't find sadness by analyzing the chemical makeup of the ink. And your book review, L3, is a physical thing you write, but it's just an expression of the story. It's not the story itself. Okay, this is all great in theory, but what about those really weird experiences? You know, the out-of-body sensations, the mystical feelings of unity, the stuff that makes people either totally dismiss consciousness or go full-on mystical. And this is where the framework becomes so powerful. It gives us 2 totally different ways to talk about an extraordinary experience. First, is it phenomenologically extraordinary? That's all about how it feels. Is it weird? Is it different from normal? Then there's a second question. Is it epistemologically extraordinary? That's about what it knows. Does it give you new, verifiable information? And here's the kicker. Those 2 things are not the same at all. So let's make this super concrete with something we all do every single night, dreaming. Okay, this quote sounds pretty academic, but what it's saying is just profound. It's saying that our own brains, every night, create entire, immersive, coherent worlds from scratch, all on their own. And they do it without breaking a single law of physics. I mean, just look at this table. It lays it out perfectly. When you're dreaming and you're flying through the air, that feels incredibly real and strange, right? That's phenomenologically extraordinary. A big yes. But does it mean you can actually fly when you wake up? Nope. So it's not epistemologically extraordinary. The experience is real, but the information isn't new knowledge about the outside world. So when you pull it all together, what do we really gain from adopting this framework? What's the big payoff? It's not about having the final answer to consciousness. It's about having a much better, less polarized way to look for the answer.
It lets science keep doing its thing without getting bogged down by spooky, non-physical forces. But at the same time, it allows us to take people's reported experiences seriously as real phenomena worth studying. It just gives everyone a common language so they can finally talk to each other.
And that leaves us with this one last, really provocative thought. If our brains are so good at building a world from scratch that feels completely and utterly real while we're asleep, what does that imply about the world we experience when we're awake? It really makes you wonder just how direct our connection to reality truly is.